Witam Was bardzo serdecznie z tej strony Runicznej. Dziś chciałbym Was zaprosić na następny odcinek Zaklejmy w The Dwarves. A ostatnio skończyliśmy w tym miejscu i udajemy się do
When you
wioski.
enter the pretty little village with its richly ornate houses and its temple to Palandil at its center, you can see an angry mob some distance away. The villagers are hassling a young woman, insulting her and pushing her to the ground.
Dobra, trzeba
You push your
zareagować.
way through the crowd of people and stand in the way of the villagers.
What's going on here?
A man dressed in richly decorated vestments looks you up and down.
Palandil be with you, dwarf. It is none of your business, but this woman here is a thief. She and her henchmen have emptied the monastery's granary and were willing to abandon us to our fate.
That's a lie. We asked for help and these people turned us away. I came back to ask again.
Tell us what happened.
The villagers grumble, but the priest gives the woman a chance to defend herself.
My name is Tavia. I was forced to flee Tabayin with my family when the perished land began to spread. My husband, we had to leave him behind.
The horror in the woman's eyes gives you a good idea as to what became of her husband.
No one accepted us in the north. There are too many refugees and everyone is scared. Queen Wei has offered land in Wayan to anyone who will work hard for it. But what should we grow if no one will sell us grain? We offered a fair price, but Father Malin,
She darts a scathing gaze at the priest.
he wanted double the amount.
The priest glances briefly at the angry villagers. Then he replies in a firm voice.
It was a hard winter, and with the increasing frequency of orc attacks, we must think of ourselves first and foremost. Even we cannot help everyone.
The bystanders mutter in agreement.
The accusations are serious, so let's get to the bottom of the matter to be completely sure.
We have no doubt that she did it.
The priest looks at the villagers standing around him, the lust for blood written in their faces.
On the other hand, before we do something we can't undo.
Dissatisfied murmuring grows, which the priest debates with mollifying gestures.
Search for your evidence. You there, lock this woman up in the guardhouse in the meantime.
The woman is taken into a squat building made of rough blocks of stone. The crowd slowly disbands.
Dobra, spróbujmy najpierw spichlerza
You
sprawdzić.
enter the village's large storehouse. The ground floor of the two-story building is full of turnips, with large barrels and clay pots on the floor and on high shelves. Several villagers are carrying out stock-taking. They're being supervised by a weedy man who observes them with a grim expression and writes things on a wax tablet every now and then.
Wejdźmy na
There are
pięterko.
sacks piled up on top of one another on the first floor. They are most likely filled with different kinds of grain and, judging by the omnipresent white dust, flour. You look around for a portable source of light.
Can anyone see a candle or a torch? I need a light.
I wouldn't recommend that.
The Magister Technicus has followed you into the storehouse.
One spark could ignite the flour dust. We sometimes use the effect when we want to create huge balls of fire on the stage.
I think we could do without huge balls of fire in here.
No, byłoby dobrze.
You walk towards the only area in the storeroom where you can see the floorboards. You hesitate as your boots slip on the floor, as if you're walking on mud.
Tungdila?
The Magister Technicus carefully observes the roof beams above the empty corner. He grabs at a beam and crumbles something between his fingers. You can't make out what it is, so you copy him and feel damp, rotten wood. It's very easy to pull away small pieces.
Ciekawe.
What are you doing here?
The man with the wax tablet is standing on the stairs. He sounds half angry, half shocked.
No one is allowed in here.
The rain has gotten here. The roof and the floor are damp.
Those savages. It wasn't enough that they steal from us. They had to damage the roof too. That was probably where they got in.
The wood didn't start to rot yesterday, good man.
The steward's face turns bright red.
And you are the experts on such things, are you?
Assuming the roof here has been leaky for a long time, what would have happened to the grain in the sacks directly underneath? Wouldn't it have turned rotten?
The man wets his lips. His gaze darts around the room.
The roof was fine. I'll have it repaired. And now, get out of here.
The steward angrily blocks off all further attempts at talking to him, and even when you threaten him with Father Malin, it doesn't have the desired effect. The father trusts in him, he says, and he's always been a devout follower. The heavy door of the storehouse closes behind you, and you hear a bolt sliding into place from the inside.
Dobra, to trzeba powiedzieć Olizgowi, co znaleźliśmy.
The priest is lost in thoughts, standing in front of the temple, as if he couldn't decide whether to go in or not.
I was wondering, what was here first, the temple or the village?
Ah, a keen eye. The temple is indeed much too big for such a small village. It was built on the foundations of an old stronghold when salt was found nearby. The village has grown over the years in
Kopalnia
the
soli.
shadow of the temple. Good people live here, honest and pious children of Pelandil.
He glances at the place where the woman was surrounded.
Why can't we just be left in peace?
The roof of the granary is leaky. We saw some rotten wooden planks.
Again? Morris only had the roof repaired last summer.
Did he? If he didn't, some of the grain would have got damp and rotten.
Out of the question. Morris would have reported that. He checks the grain once a month and there were no complaints.
The priest has absolutely no doubt in what he is saying, often a sign that someone hasn't thought things over.
Supposing Tavia really did steal the grain and supplies, but only to save her family, would you turn a blind eye?
Pelandil teaches generosity, but that too must have its boundaries. We cannot help everyone. At some point there won't be enough for us.
So, if you had sold the grain, the people of Seaton would have starved?
Maybe not. Not yet. But if we always give
Coś mi się
everything we
tutaj nie
have
podoba.
away...
No one is saying always, and no one is saying everything.
The priest shrugs his shoulders apologetically. He doesn't wish to spoil things with his flock. You nod goodbye, and the priest returns the gesture.
To jeszcze wejdźmy sobie
You
do
enter the
stróżówki.
guardhouse, and before the guards know, Boindil and Boendal have caught them up in a friendly conversation. Shielded from the view of the guards, you exchange a few words with the suspect without being disturbed.
Why did you come back to the village?
I wanted to negotiate with Father Malin for the grain. What else could I do? No sooner had I arrived than they surrounded me and accused me of robbery.
Where have you taken the grain and supplies?
I don't know anything about grain or supplies. Apart from the fact that we could do with both, I'm telling you, I am innocent!
We won't let anyone do anything to you, but if we are going to help you, you will have to tell us the truth.
The woman looks you in the face, then her head sinks, and when she looks back up, she has tears in her eyes.
Please, I just want to go back to my family. I don't know what happened.
Tungdila.
You feel sympathy towards the woman. You raise your hand to silence Rodario and nod to the woman to continue talking.
We asked for grain and were full of hope when we saw the well-filled granary. But we hadn't reckoned on the malice of the people here.
A slow, ironic clap sounds from behind you. Confused, you turn around to face Rodario.
Bravo, my dear, with tears and everything. Tough luck that a master of the art of acting is present. None of what she said corresponds with the truth, Tungdila. She is lying and trying to deceive us. Not completely talentless, for an amateur.
You expect the woman to deny everything, but when she overcomes her amazement, she spits in the actor's face.
O,
And what if I am? I would do it all again. The people here have more than they need and my people are starving. Is that fair?
Why did you come back here after stealing the grain and supplies?
We didn't steal 'em. We paid for 'em. A reasonable price, just not to Father Malin.
You had help.
He promised us 3 dozen sacks of grain. When we opened the sacks in our hideout, we realised that most of the grain was rotten. He thought he'd get away with it.
The woman looks around wearily. And by the
A,
looks
czyli
of
on się
things,
pozbył
it was.
ten zgnilizny, żeby ojculkowi nie mówić.
Morris the steward offered you the grain, didn't he?
What does that matter? I've
Tak.
no proof it was him. And even if I did, if I admit that we have the stuff, I'll be hanging from a tree by this evening and my children will starve. I beg you, let me go. We bought the grain and the supplies. Perhaps he wasn't allowed to sell it to us. But we paid. And with a little seed we can sow, at least some of us have a chance of surviving the year.
Na miłosierdzie ojczulka nie ma co liczyć, więc wypuśćmy ją, zobaczymy co się stanie.
I don't want you to be hanged just because you tried to support your family. Go.
You open the door. The guards jump up, take up their swords, and let their hands sink down again when they feel the axes of the dwarves against their throats. The woman lays a hand on your shoulder for a moment as a sign of gratitude before she runs from the guardhouse.
I hope you know what you're doing, scholar.
Rodario's furrowed brow does not give you the feeling you've made an undisputed decision.
Namora, find out where she's heading and then rejoin us.
Fergus wants to raise an objection, but before he can think of the right words, Namora has kissed him on the mouth and has disappeared round the next corner. You leave the guardhouse and explain your plan to Father Malin. You expect him to object, but he seems to be satisfied. You assume he'll make you responsible for everything if something goes wrong, and will claim a piece for himself if you are successful.
Gdzie teraz?
Like every night in the wilderness, you set up camp and assign the watch. Bavragor takes first watch this evening, while the rest of you sit by a small fire, toasting some bread. You're not particularly surprised that neither Bavragor nor any of the others notice the guest who suddenly appears out of the darkness next to you.
Namora!
Fergus jumps up, and moments later has embraced her tightly.
Were you able to find out anything?
She didn't detect me and led me straight to the hideout. I can show you. It's a cave some miles off from the path. Almost 4 dozen people, men, women and children.
You nod.
Ojej, daleko.
You spend the night protected from the wind in a ruin, and are sitting around a campfire as the topic of your new companion's performance on the stage comes up.
Sleight of hand, speed, alchemy, and makeup can have an incredible effect. Namora transformed herself into an elf using the latter.
I also noticed your weapons, Namora. I've never seen such swords before.
Their names are Crescent and Sunbeam. I designed them myself. It took a long time until I found a smith who was able to make them.
She looks like a pointy ear too. Nature hasn't been kind to her.
For this absent-minded remark, Boindil receives evil looks from Namora and grins from the men.
No tak, nie wygląda jak krasnoludka, to nie wygląda pięknie.
And will bring you a nightmare in your sleep tonight. Don't be surprised if you wake up screaming.
For a moment, it seems as though she has merged with the darkness, but when you blink, everything is back to normal.
By the gods, isn't she magnificent in her role?
There is no denying what Rodario says.
Dobra.
A 2-story tavern sits on the corner of a crossroads. The snow around the building has been cleared away, and a warm light is coming from
Ojej, nie ma
outside.
tekstu.
The sign above the door reads Minstrel Castle.
Minstrel Castle? That sounds promising.
Finally! Time for ale! My throat is completely parched.
No tak.
As much as I hate agreeing with you, I too can hardly wait.
You enter the tavern with Bavregor and Boindil in front. On first impression, the interior is as inconspicuous as the outside. But when you take a closer look, you spot a couple of paintings of minstrels in front of a castle, a small stage that, judging by the dust, is only very rarely used, and a lute hanging on the wall behind the bar. There are not very many guests on the ground floor, perhaps a dozen, and most of them belong to a group of mercenaries who have retreated into the far corner. You sit at a table, and after a while you are brought the ale that Boindil has ordered. You go to the bar where the landlady is working and sit on a stool. The landlady, a stout, middle-aged woman with long hair tied in a ponytail, looks up briefly but says nothing.
Say, why is the tavern called Minstrel Castle? It doesn't look much like a castle.
Oh, you don't know the legend, dwarf.
One of the guests next to you at the bar takes up your question.
There was a castle here once. No one knows its name anymore, so everyone just calls it Minstrel Castle. Once upon a time, a king lived in that castle. He had many subjects and an enchanting queen. But one day a young minstrel came along and sang of wonderful far-off lands, and the subjects began to complain about their own lives. So the king sent for the singer to hear for himself. He came and sang a wonderful love song, and the king began to be scared. He thought that the minstrel wanted to steal away his queen. Without flinching, he drew his sword and struck the boy down. His father heard of this. He was himself a singer. And so he went to the king and played a terrible song, a curse. The king was to vanish in silence, and no one was to remember his name.
And that's what happened. No one remembers the name of the king or his castle. Make of it what you will. The story's certainly well known enough in the area to give R in its name.
O, kupimy sobie to. O, zmniejszenie obrażeń. Większa. Okej, to. Zobaczmy. Sprzedamy lutnię. Sprzedamy to. Pierścień. Okej, potwierdź i zaakceptuj.
You nod at the landlady as you slip off the bar stool, and she nods back. Bavregor and Boindil, who are absorbed in a drinking competition, have to be practically dragged out of the tavern. But in the end, you are able to continue your journey.
No tak, krasnoluda z tawerny nie łatwo.
You arrive at an empty jetty on Lake Anteria. You can see several fishing boats on the lake, and there's a small village on the other shore.
Ah, Polbrook. What an idyllic little place. And then there's the miller's daughter.
You turn around.
Dobra, bym chciał tutaj dotrzeć.
The group isn't overly friendly towards Geralda, and this evening she's sitting once again apart from the others. You ask yourself what you can do to break the ice when you see that she has a file in her hand. The file is wrapped around with silver wire and has a snap lock. The liquid in it is black. Geralda opens the lid and takes a big swig. As she puts down the bottle, a smile flits across her face, followed by a short expression of deep satisfaction. It is the first time that you have seen a positive emotion on the face of the somber dwarf.
Is that medicine?
No, it's... I don't know either. If I don't drink it, I have a longing for it. It gets stronger and stronger until I can't stand it anymore. I don't know.
Geralda plays with the fire.
Dobra, to musiałem przeskipować, bo muszę niestety na chwilę się zatrzymać i zaraz do was wrócę. No i jestem z powrotem. Dla was pewnie minęło chwila, dla mnie troszeczkę dłużej, no ale kontynuujemy. Czyli mamy Liquid.
As on the previous evening, Bavragor sits apart from the others. But tonight, he waves you over.
Smeralda, my sister. You want to know what happened, right?
You nod and sit down.
She followed Boindle into battle. We tried to talk her out of it, but she was as unyielding as a mountain. Then came the day when the High Pass was attacked.
Bavragor drinks from his liquor.
He killed her. Blinded by the frenzy of battle, he thought she was one of the enemy. I can never forgive him. He killed my sister. Could you?
You inevitably remember the loss of Lot-Yonan, Frala, and her children. You remain sitting in silence, each of you deep in thought. Boendal approaches, having either heard you or guessing what you were talking about.
His fierce life forge is a curse. He thought the orcs had robbed him of his love, and the ire came over him. Sometimes he calls her name in his dreams. Oh, he'd never admit it, but he suffers just like Bavragor. He too loved her.
The stonemason doesn't react, so you and Boendal go back to the others by the fire.
I dotarliśmy na miejsce. Zobaczymy.
You can make out a cave in the bank of a dried-out riverbed, with several small fires burning in it. You don't see any guards, so you approach carefully. Men and women jump as they notice you. There is terror written in their emaciated faces. When a little girl screams and runs away from you, the whole camp is alerted, and a group of men and women step out of the cave.
Is that them? Your benefactors?
Tavia, who came out of the cave next to the man, nods.
You've led them straight here.
Who are you?
The man resembles Tavia. His face too tells of a struggle between defiant determination and fatigue and resignation.
I am Gerald, Tavia's brother. I led these people here from Tabayin.
You look around you. You guess there are about 10 families, less than 50 people. Half of them are children and youths.
Your sister couldn't have known that she was being followed. Namora has quite a talent for not being seen.
She shouldn't even have gone to Seaton in the first place. I knew that nothing good would come of it.
Tabayin is a fertile country in the north, but much more importantly these days, it borders the Perish land to the east.
O, nieprzyjemne.
Gerald's expression changes. It's as if he's looking through you.
The Perish land is raging. It poisons the spirit, and those who become possessed by it just...
Gerald looks at his hands, which he involuntarily forms into claws.
They no longer recognize you. Brothers, mothers, children. My brother-in-law. I had to...
With visible effort, he wrenches himself free of his terrible memories.
We can only hope that the Magi manage to build a new barrier soon.
You cannot bring yourself to quash the last hope he has.
Tavia went to Seaton on her own initiative.
Our gold was gone and our supplies were dwindling, despite being on half rations. I said we should just take what we need if no one is going to help us, but my sister wouldn't have anything to do with it. She took the wedding jewelry from our village, the most valuable thing we had with us, and sold it without my knowing. She then took this money and went to Seaton with several men. I was completely beside myself when I heard about it, but then they came back with food and grain, and I thought they had really done it.
He laughs cheerlessly and shakes his head.
For a few minutes we thought we were saved.
What's wrong with the grain from Seaton?
We thought we finally had a change of luck for the better. We were praying for a new start, but then we discovered that most of the grain was rotten and unusable. They'd been ripped off by the bloody steward. We all got together and discussed what was to be done. The majority was in favour of going to Seaton and taking what was due, at any price. The next morning, Tavia disappeared. It was clear to me that she had returned to Seaton. We were going to give her a couple of days, and in the meantime, we prepared for our attack. We needed weapons, and we needed a plan.
The supplies and the grain, where are they?
Gerald glances at your companions.
The grain is mainly useless. There's only 4 or 5 usable sacks. We shared out the supplies, and that'll keep us going for the next few weeks.
Chcecie zatrzymać ziarno? Nie, zatrzymajcie, potrzebujecie.
You're in greater need of the grain and the supplies than the people in Seaton. Keep both.
Gerald stares at you. Only after a few seconds does he finally close his mouth.
Thank you very much, sir. When I saw you turn up here heavily armed, I thought the game was up.
How could we ever justify letting people on the run die if we have enough to share ourselves?
You see tired but happy faces all around you. The people breathe a collective sigh of relief.
Know this, good dwarf. Whenever you need help, we'll come. We'll stand by your side. We don't have much to offer you, but we can muster together a few strong arms for battle, and we have some outstanding archers.
You nod and are happy to have made some new friends.
So long, my friend.
Czy tutaj jest? Tutaj trzeba by było wrócić. Dobra, to ja wrócę i zobaczymy się na miejscu. Dobra, to wróciliśmy, zobaczymy, czy uda się coś uzyskać nowego.
You enter Seaton. The priest is lost in thoughts, standing.
We have found the thieves.
Really? That's welcome news.
O,
We spoke to the people there. It was very revealing.
And?
The priest gives you the same look he otherwise uses to reprimand the villagers' minor sins.
They say they paid Morris to sell supplies and grain to them.
The priest wants to object.
He ripped them off. That would be an explanation as to why Tavia came back this morning, don't you think?
The cogs are turning inside the priest's head. His expression reveals that he doesn't like his own conclusions.
And what about the grain and the supplies?
We have given the supplies and grain to Tavia's people. They need both more than you.
This is not up to you to decide that.
But we have decided. Good day.
You leave the village for the last time. You haven't made any friends here, but that is not the point.
Udało się zakończyć. Drogą ciekawe, czy jak wrócę cokolwiek
You
będzie.
are accompanied by evil looks as you enter the village. People spit at you, and when you attempt... When you enter the strongly fortified mountain village, you see a large group of miners standing around a shaft in heated discussion.
I really saw them, I swear!
A young man in mining clothes defiantly stares at an older man who is a good head taller than him.
Even if you did, smashing the lift hoist, it would have been better to have not sent the cage down again until we cleared this thing up.
Is there a problem?
The older man, perhaps a foreman, is so angry that he hardly seems to have realized that he's talking to a dwarf.
Mika here says that
Za
he saw
niscy.
orcs in the mine, and he smashed the lift hoist to bits. The cage has crashed to the bottom of the shaft. How are we supposed to work now?
Can we help you somehow?
Help? Well, we'll have to repair the hoist, and we need a new cage.
The foreman turns to a man next to him for answers. He's just as muscular, with dirty, calloused hands and an angular face.
It will take at least 2 weeks, but we don't need any help, unless you can speed up time.
I'll need 1 day. 2 at the most, if there are problems.
The foreman looks aghast at the Technicus, unsure whether he's joking or not.
1 day? Have you got any idea how...
Fergus is the most talented Magister Technicus in Girdlegard. And anyway, what have you got to lose? Let him help.
As long as he doesn't get in my way.
The worker shrugs his shoulders.
Why not?
O, przydałoby nam się troszeczkę.
Then we'll help you, but we would like provisions for it. 30 rations.
Sure. If you pull it off, the provisions are yours. You really trust in your skills, don't you? Mika, give him a hand.
Fergus immediately gets to work, examining the hoist. After a few moments, he sends Mika off with a list of tools and spare parts, and explains to you how to build the cage, while he takes care of the hoist's rustic mechanism. After half a day, the cage is operational again, but Fergus is still busy with the hoist. You just hear him muttering.
So far, there is no automatic brake in case the ropes snap, but it
O,
shouldn't be
to
too
się
hard
przyda.
to fit one.
Coś czuję, że jeżeli nie będzie tego...
Fergus decides to fit the automatic brake, but it takes more time than expected. Building the hoist from scratch would have been simple, but the upgrade turns out to be complicated. In the end, it takes 2 days until the lift is operational again. After the work is done, you report to the foreman.
You've kept your part of the deal, we'll keep ours. Take the provisions for your journey.
O.
You travel down into the mine in the repaired lift. Mika shows you the place where he saw the orcs, and you follow the winding gallery. After 1,000 paces, you stopped counting, and only after several hours do you reach an exit. There's a stench of tallow in the air. The tunnel leads directly into a huge orc camp, which blocks the pass into Snowdale Valley.
Ooh.
If you attacked from here, you'd have the element of surprise on your side.
I could go and take a look and perhaps improve our chances for an attack.
You remember how the actor had transformed himself into Lot Yonin and Nudin in Mifidania. You certainly wouldn't bet against him being able to walk through the orc camp unnoticed.
I'll come with you. If I stay in the shadows, they won't see me.
The actor nods gratefully.
I'll come too. I also know how to keep myself hidden.
Nomura wants to object, but you are quicker.
Thank you, Geralda. 2 more eyes and ears would be helpful on such a mission.
Listen, try to sabotage their defenses, and if you can safely take out a couple of guards, then do it. But don't take any big risks. Come back here if things get too hairy.
Nomura and Rodario rejoin you without any particular urgency. The infiltration was a complete success. No one detected the two of them.
Mhm. Czyli co, i tyle?
The village seems much emptier than on your last visit. Most of the workers must now be underground.
O, przejdź przez kopalnię. Tak właśnie myślałem, że będzie taka opcja. W sumie to jeszcze możemy kupić.
The guards are much more alert now since the infiltration of the orc camp. You have delivered a serious blow to your enemy, and an attack should now be significantly easier. You enter the orc camp with your companions. You have a long way ahead of you.
Dobra, czy mnie czasu teraz starczy na... Zobaczę. No powiedzmy, że jeszcze możemy sobie pozwolić na atak. A tego nie chcę, jej też nie chcę. Weźmiemy sobie tego i tego. I zobaczmy, co ty umiesz. Żądło. Kamuflaż? Przebieraniec. Póki nie zostanie wykonany otwarty atak na jednego ze swoich. Ogień. Podobasz mi się, biorę cię. Okej. Dobra, spróbujemy. Kamuflaż.
Yes?
Moment. A ty na górę.
At your service?
What is it? Oh, what bad luck for you! What is it? Yes?
A spróbujmy ich zrzucić. I polecieli.
And what now? Huh? Bites the dust.
Ty tutaj, ty tutaj.
What is it? All right.
He hardly put up a fight. Huh? I can't do that yet.
Dobra, jak ten przeskoczył, to teraz możemy pozrzucać ich więcej. Poleciał.
At once.
A tobie jak idzie?
Yes, yes. Ha ha! What is it?
I understand. Over there? Yeah.
Yaha!
Yes?
Yes?
Ale poleciał?
Hit you very hard. And again.
They're hitting me pretty hard.
And what now? Come here, you. Huzzah!
Yes? Kill.
Huh?
Oh,
Dobra, spróbujemy ogień teraz.
at your service?
Oj, to
Excuse me,
chyba
but
był.
I'm going to have to do this. Over there? Glad.
I am Bowen-Dar. Give me a hand.
Dobra, to tego trzeba stąd usunąć, bo do niego strzelają.
Yes, yes. Ha ha! Oink, oink, little piggies!
Huh? Understood.
And again. And what now? I'm not that quick. What is it?
Oh,
Who's next? Huh?
Podpalił się.
Vile creature.
Dobra. Zbierzcie mi się tutaj.
Yes? Almost done.
Dobra, ciebie przebierz się.
excellent choice. Over there? Glad.
Yes?
Dobra, to teraz zrobimy tak. Ty zabij tego,
What is it?
a ty tutaj.
On my way.
O, tutaj. Spróbujemy tych wyrzucić stąd. Oj, nie da się.
Easy.
At your service?
Yaha! Huh? And what now? Attack! Yes?
Killed.
Aye. Patience, I'll be ready soon.
What is it?
Dobra. Trzeba ich tam wspomóc.
And what now?
Yes?
He hardly put up a fight. What is it?
Oh. I understand.
Yaha! Huh? Huh? Bites the
Ale mi nie umieraj, co? Przejdź mi tutaj. Dobra.
Yes? On my way.
At your service.
Gdzie ty jesteś? Tu. Dobra.
I need help over here, quickly. What is it? Huh? Yeah. That one's. Ow! Hey! Huh?
Dobra, spróbujmy ich wycofać.
Huzzah! Huh? Yeah! I have bow and gun. Give me a hand.
Excellent choice.
Tutaj już widzę, jest pusto.
Over there.
Ups. Wycofaj się.
Of course. Huh?
Ty też.
What is it? Pow! Another one bites the dust. Huh? Yes. Understood. Yes. On my way. I'll be ready soon. Oh, what bad luck for you. Say goodbye forever.
I understand.
Tych łuczników trzeba się pozbyć.
What is it? All right. As good as done. On my way. Huh? Oh, what bad luck for you.
Dobra, teraz już powinno być dobrze. Zachrumkaj mi.
Oink, oink, little piggies. Killed. What is it?
Dobra, wycofajcie się. Dobra, dobra, wszystko jest ok. Niech się trochę zregenerują. Jaki to jest cooldown?
Even I am not that quick.
Dobra.
What is it?
Dobra.
On my way.
Spróbujemy zrobić szarżę. I przebić się po prostu. Au. To był chyba błąd. No dobra, ale spróbujemy sobie poradzić tak albo inaczej. O. Ja się jednak wycofam.
At your service.
Tego nic. Dobra, to ten. Dobij tego. A tymczasem my będziemy tutaj atakować.
I understand. Over there.
Vile creature. Huh?
Albo wy do mnie z łuku strzelacie.
On my way. And what now? Come here, you. Yes.
Say goodbye forever. Yeah! Ow! Another one bites the dust.
What is it? Ha-ha! He hardly put up a fight.
Dobra, wycofajmy cię.
Yes.
Oink, oink, little piggies!
Yeah! And again. I need help over here, quickly. Ah! Attack!
What is it? Oh, what bad luck for you!
As good as done. Huh? End it.
Huh? I'm with you.
Dobra, trzeba się tych łuczników pozbyć.
Huh?
Yeah! What is it?
Huh?
Odpocznij chwilę.
Yes?
At your service. Excellent choice. Ah, I understand.
No, no, no.
There, glad.
Yes?
Pow! Another one bites the dust. Huh? I didn't hit you very hard.
Huh?
Kto do ciebie jeszcze strzela? Wycofaj się tutaj.
What is it?
Nie trafiłeś, noż.
Excellent choice. Huh?
Too easy.
Huzzah! Ha-ha!
Huh? I didn't hit you very hard.
Dobra, trochę się wycofaj.
All right. Oh, what bad luck for you! With pleasure. Damn it! How many more of them are there? Say goodbye forever.
What now?
At your service.
Yaha! Huh?
Boy, dear, what could do with your axes over here?
No, poradzisz sobie.
Pleasure.
What is it?
A tymczasem wy zaataku... A, tu jesteś.
Huh?
Oh. Patience, I'll be ready
He
soon.
hardly put up a fight.
What is it? On my way.
No to się nazywa tank. Wy już tutaj wszystkich? Tak.
Come here, you. I didn't hit you very hard.
Even I am not that quick.
Yes. Too easy.
Vile creature.
With pleasure.
Oh.
Yaha!
Huh? I didn't hit you very hard.
And what now?
At your service. On guard.
On guard. Ten przy...
Ow! Another one bites the dust.
At your service.
Ukryj się.
Oh.
Too easy.
Patience, I'll be ready soon.
What is it?
Yes?
Ty się widzę nudzisz, to idź tutaj powalczyć. A ty?
Bites the dust.
At your service.
Yaha!
Dobra i... A, nie mogę.
Yes. Too easy. As good as done. Say goodbye forever.
And what now?
Oh.
I didn't hit you very hard.
Excuse me, but I'm going to have to do this.
All right.
Dobra, wycofaj się. Włącz sobie ochronę i... O! Dobra, spróbujemy teraz Huzie na Juzie w tą stronę. Teraz, chodź. A, udało się. Chociaż trochę to zabrało. Krwawe cięcie. O, to może być ciekawe. Tornado. Weźmy sobie to. Chmura kwasu albo Morfeusz. Usypiającego, to może być ciekawe. To może być śmieszne. A tutaj w zasadzie wszystko jedno. Troszkę jedzonka, trochę złota. Dobra. Ale za dziś myślę, że ja bym wam bardzo podziękował. Mam nadzieję, że się przyjemnie oglądało. No i do następnego. Mówił do was Runiczny. Trzymajcie się ciepło. Cześć!